saying, "I miss you," implying Jake has since been blocked or shut out by James, but both of those videos have now been deleted. But, like I said, this is just the latest of accusations. Just around a month ago, he was accused of sending and soliciting pictures from a minor, though there he denied grooming that person, saying that he was told that person was 18. But that incident also prompted 2 other people to speak out around that time, including a 17-year-old who said that James flirted with him online despite knowing his age, as well as another person who said that they were trying to be friends with James, but James kept asking for explicit photos and then stopped talking to him. And so what we're seeing online because of all of this, you have a lot of people angry, demanding some accountability, some consequences. With some, including creator Trisha, tweeting that James Charles deserves prison, saying, "I really hope one of these parents press charges. It's so nauseating. I'm physically nauseous," and he's so cocky about getting away with it all. With Paytas also going on to call James Charles a pedophile in multiple tweets, that he's a dangerous threat, as well as that he deserves to be banned and stripped from all social platforms. We've also seen what appears to be a number of creators kind of having their opinion evolve on this matter, with creators like Angelica Oles tweeting, "Okay, I've been giving James the benefit of the doubt, but not a single one of the guys he's been messaging looks 18 or older. They're all high schoolers and look like it." Right, along those lines, you also had some questioning specifically with Jake. How did James Charles not know he was underage? And this appears to be in part because it looks like in a screenshot, James wishes him a happy birthday on what now appears to be his 16th birthday, because months prior he had made TikTok saying that he was 15. But, that's kind of where we are unless more people come forward, if there are advances along some sort of legal avenue. With this situation, I really hope that we can get to the bottom of it, because I know some people are gonna be like, "Oh, it's drama." Like, these are legal claims. Right? Because at the end of the day, depending on the reality of all these situations, let's go from one end to the other. On one end, you could have a story about someone preying on young children, using their platform in that way, or on the complete opposite end, at the very least, you have a conversation of, you probably shouldn't be trying to fuck your fans. And because you engaged in that behavior and you didn't do your due diligence, you made yourself an easy target. Right? Oversimplified, that's kind of the range that we're talking about here. Once again, and as always, I say this as someone that is welcome and open to any and all information. It's why I always reach out for comment, even though people rarely respond back. Because if there's evidence that there's a lie, there's missing information, there are explanations that explain things away, let's show them. But, that said, that is where this story ends for now. Then, in fantastic news out of New York, if you are a fan of what my grandmother called the devil's lettuce, New York state lawmakers yesterday passed a bill to legalize recreational marijuana for people 21 and up. But, in addition to that, one of the biggest things with this bill, as Axios explained, is that it will expunge records for thousands of people who have past marijuana-related convictions. Very notably, Black and brown people represented 94% of marijuana arrests in New York City in 2020. And actually, as we were recording today, we got the news that Governor Andrew Cuomo officially signed the legislation. And as far as what this means from a business standpoint, it's being reported that the state is expected to collect around $350 million in new taxes annually. As well as experts saying that this newly legalized industry there could create between 30,000 to 60,000 new jobs. And not a shocker for anyone that's been watching me any time over the past 15 years, but I think this is a good move. The decriminalization, at least, of marijuana just makes sense. And I think that the legalization for both medical and recreational, it just makes sense as well. It's been unjustly demonized for years and years and years, in my opinion. And actually, because marijuana legalization has gone so mainstream, it has so much public support now, especially compared to where we were 10, 20 years ago. I have a new, potentially controversial take. I think we, as a country, need to very much look into the legalization of psilocybin, aka magic mushrooms. There understandably needs to be more, but the research so far as helping with depression is extremely promising. And actually, from a legal standpoint, I think we talked about it late last year, Oregon actually became the first state to legalize psilocybin in a therapeutic setting thanks to a public vote. Though, technically it hasn't already started because they have this 2-year period where they have to figure out how to make all of this work. But yeah, whether it be a marijuana or psilocybin, for the future, like with everything, we have to wait and see. But from that, let's take a second to pay some bills and thank the fantastic sponsor of today's show, Stamps.com. Well, you've probably heard of them. Did you know that with Stamps.com, you can get up to 40% off post office rates and up to 62% off UPS shipping rates? That's right, major savings on UPS shipping too. Whether you're a small office sending out invoices, an online seller shipping orders, or even a giant warehouse sending thousands of packages a day, Stamps.com is great for any size business. Print official US postage from your computer 24/7 for any letter, package, and class of mail anywhere you want to send. Personally, I just love how convenient and cost-effective this is for me and my business, and I can get all mailing and shipping done from my home office. Stamps.com is a no-brainer, saving you time and money. It's really no wonder nearly 1 million small businesses already use them. Now, right now, you can get a special 4-week trial plus free postage and a digital scale when you use code PHIL. There's no risk, no long-term commitments or contracts. You just go to Stamps.com, you click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, and you type in PHIL. Stamps.com, use code vote Phil, PHIL, and never go to the post office again. Then, in a positive update on a story we covered yesterday, which unfortunately doesn't feel like a sentence I get to say that often, the man who was seen in that security footage violently attacking a 65-year-old Asian woman while yelling slurs in New York has been caught and arrested on hate crime charges, with police saying they identified the man, 38-year-old Brandon Elliott, after getting multiple tips and arrested him at his residence, which was a hotel serving people experiencing homelessness near the site of the attack. With police also saying that Elliott was actually convicted of stabbing his mother to death back in 2002, but he was released on lifetime parole back in 2019, with the Associated Press also reporting that the parole board had denied his release twice and that his record also included an arrest for robbery in 2000. So yeah, a great guy to just be releasing without proper resources or care into the community, which is actually a thing that NYPD Commissioner Dermot Shea hit on this morning, talking to reporters and saying,
when you're releasing people from prison and you're putting them in homeless shelters, you're asking for trouble. There's got to be a safety net and there's got to be resources for them. You just shake your head and say, what could possibly go wrong? And this is what goes wrong. It just never should happen.
But that said, as far as the specific charges against Elliott, according to reports, police confirmed that he is facing 2 counts of assault as a hate crime, attempted assault as a hate crime assault, and attempted assault. And as of right now, it is unclear how much time he would serve if convicted, given that he is a parolee. As far as the victim of this brutal attack, according to the New York Times, police identified her as Vilma Kari, with her daughter telling the paper that she immigrated from the Philippines decades ago and reportedly added that her mother was overwhelmed and not ready to talk. But yeah, that's where we are, and I guess we'll have to wait and see what they do with the mother killer that they released onto the streets. I imagine there's got to be a ton of questions, maybe even an investigation into how a parole board would do this. And then let's talk about Biden's $2 trillion infrastructure plan. Right, so you have him and his administration releasing this today. I'll link to the White House's fact sheet on this. It is a lot. Just scrolling from the top to the bottom of that page, your pointer finger could get a little bit tired. But as kind of an introduction to it, I'm going to hit some of the top level highlights. Among other things, Biden's proposal would put $621 billion into transportation infrastructure such as bridges, roads, public transit, ports, airports, and electric vehicle development, direct $400 billion to care for elderly and disabled Americans, inject more than $300 billion into improving drinking water infrastructure, expanding broadband access, and upgrading electric grids, put more than $300 billion into building and retrofitting affordable housing, along with constructing and upgrading schools, and invest $580 billion in American manufacturing, research and development, and job training efforts. With the White House reportedly planning to fund all this spending by raising the corporate tax to 28%, which is a notable change, but also kind of a meeting in the middle. Right? And that's being said because it actually used to be 35% before Republicans cut it down in 2017 to 21%. With places like CNBC also reporting that the administration also wants to boost the global minimum tax for multinational corporations and ensure they pay at least 21% in taxes in any country. Though, notably, nowhere in this plan do we see a change to capital gains tax, which is notable because that is something that Biden said on the campaign trail that he would change. But as far as the thinking or maybe even perceived compromise in this situation, the senior administration official saying last night, capital gains is not addressed here, adding the reason for that is that the focus of this plan is on corporate tax reform and reforming the corporate tax system. And we think that is important as a matter of fairness and also important as a matter of encouraging domestic investment. Right? And so one of the ways you could possibly receive that information is that the administration is scared of hurting the stock market, and you might be able to argue that this is their way of getting more money from corporations while not kind of hurting the retail investors that we've seen on the rise for the past 2 years. But like I said, this is the early stages. This is the introduction. We're going to see plenty of speed bumps, possibly walls. They're hoping to pass this or a version of it by summer, and so we'll see. And then, oh man, let's talk about Representative Matt Gaetz. And I know he's previously said if he's ever in a scandal, he wants to call it Gaetzgate, but it feels maybe a little more appropriate to call this Pizza Gaetz. And the reason for that is yesterday it was reported that Matt was being investigated by the Justice Department over allegations that he had a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old girl and he paid for her to travel with him. But sources reportedly familiar with the matter saying that investigators were looking into whether Gaetz violated federal sex trafficking laws, which make it illegal to transport a minor across state lines to engage in sex. According to the New York Times, which first broke this story, it's unclear how Gaetz met this girl, who is believed to have been 17 at the time of the encounters about 2 years ago. But you did reportedly have the sources saying that the investigation was opened in the final months of the Trump administration under Attorney General Barr as part of a broader probe into a local Florida politician and political ally of Gaetz named Joel Greenberg, which, is standout. Greenberg was indicted last summer on numerous charges, including sex trafficking of a child and financially supporting people in exchange for sex, including at least one underage girl. Now, that said, he has currently pleaded not guilty and is currently scheduled to go on trial in June, but was also reportedly sent to jail early this month for violating the terms of his bail. And it is unclear how Greenberg knows Gaetz, but the media has also surfaced at least 2 photos of the two together. together that Greenberg posted on his Twitter back in 2017 and 2019. It's also unclear how investigators on the Greenberg probe began to investigate